Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I foremost want to say a very big thank you for coming around to this event. I haven't met many of you, but then having to see you at the Extreme Hangout to attend this event, it means a lot to me. Thank you very much. Um, I'm just a little not very balanced because the speakers as well as the moderators that we're expecting, none of them are here yet. But I hope that we can, um, maybe one of us will be the moderator. I don't know. Let's see how it goes. Um, my name is Adebote Mayowa, and if you're wondering where my photograph is, here's it. Yeah, a documentary photographer based in Nigeria, and I'm just going to be sharing a little um, a little bit about my journey and how I started. So before now, I used to, do the normal photography, weddings, um, um, naming ceremonies, birthdays, and just cover regular events, yeah. But a time came when I thought that I wanted to do more. A time came when I thought that I wanted my photography to be more impactful. And I started asking myself, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I could not answer that question for a very long time without knowing that the answer that I needed was even right in my palm or right, where I lived. Um, and then sometimes in the year 2020, yeah, I think that was the year of COVID, I stumbled on a Twitter post where somebody had said that she came to live with her aunt and could not sleep at night because there was this organization that, in quotes, recycle used vehicle tires. And in the process of recycling these tires, there's this very large emission that covers the entire community. Um, Funny enough, I live very close to that community, and on few occasions, I've also been impacted by that emission. So I then took it upon myself that, okay, um, I've been trying to use photography, trying to make my photography more impactful, so I took it upon myself to document that activity, um, which I did. I went to the community, visited people, visited the organization, and I started documenting how people's livelihood has been affected. And after taking all the photographs, it took a while, but after taking all the photographs, I got stuck again and started asking myself, what do I do with photographs? I didn't want the photographs to end just in my hard drive. Besides, it was the year of COVID, and everything was almost shut down. So I decided I was going to do a virtual exhibition, right? So I had the virtual exhibition, called a few people from the Lagos State Ministry, called a few people from the government, called a few people from the private civil societies. They came around and had like a virtual exhibition, and 3, 4 weeks later after the exhibition, some guys from the government came to that organization and shut the organization down. It was at that point I discovered that, so photography could really be a way, could really be a tool to cause social change, to make a change, to make some form of impact. It was at that point I figured that I could use photography to better people's life. I could use photography to educate people. I could use photography to highlight issues, in the society. And that was how my journey started. Year 2020, this is year 2024. And ever since then, I've been going around to document climate change activities across Nigeria and beyond. I've been going around to document how people's life has been affected by lots of human activities. I've been going around to not just also document scary images or show some scary images. I've also been able to spotlight innovative solutions that a lot of people are taking in different ways to address the issue of climate change. Lastly, I've also tried to document how people are coping and adapting, with climate change in different ways. Yes. So even though right now I don't know what to do because my moderators is not around, but I think I'm just going to let Adam play us a particular video. And the course of the video is going to take a few pauses while I try to give or shed more light to some of the photographs that has been taken. I would also appreciate if you have questions for me. It would be nice for you to note them down so that afterwards I can shed more light to some of these questions. Adam, let's go with the first video. Thank you. Adam, thank you very much. You're going to have to play the video again, but then you have to take a pause this time around. So let's go. I'm going to give a little bit of background to the last video we watched. In Nigeria, just take a seat for now. Yeah. So in Nigeria, we have about 36 states, and about 9 to 10 states of this in my country lies across the ocean, just by the ocean shore. Fortunately or unfortunately, as we may see, these 9 to 10 states contribute to about 25% of the entire population in Nigeria. And it also might interest you to know that in Nigeria, we have a population of about 220 million people. So you have an idea of the number of people that live, in this community that shares the boundary with the ocean. Unfortunately, in recent time, you can play the video without the audio this time around. Unfortunately, in recent time, there's been lots of impacts on these communities due to sea level rise, the sea encroachment, um, and people's life have been affected in different ways. You can take a pause here. This building, years back, as I was told, used to be about 150 meters away from the ocean. But if you look at this image now, you see how much of encroachment the sea has had, in that community. And I mean, it's almost wiped up, over half already of the community is been wiped away. This building might also interest you to know belongs to the traditional ruler of that community, and this is what is left of its remains now. Please play. Livelihood of people, people in that community, as you would assume, most of them are fishermen, while the women go to trade after their husband return with fish. But because of the impact of this encroachment, this happens to be the traditional ruler, and that's his house, So because of the encroachments, people have had to been displaced from their homes. And the last slide of this video, you would see people trying to even move out of that community. This is just to show how people have been affected, how people have been impacted. And for me, the idea is knowing that in my community, not so many people are very educated, knowing that not so many people have access to the internet. And by the time we keep saying climate change, let's take a pause there. By the time we keep saying climate change, not so many of these people understand what climate change really is. I even have colleagues of mine that still see climate change as some form of science and do not really understand what it is, right? But I've come to know that photograph, it's more like a universal language that everybody connects to, whether you're educated, not educated, rich, poor, Asian, African, everybody, once you see an image, there's this connection we have to it. And over the years, with the little I've done, I think we've been able to make people understand more what climate change really is about. This particular well in this image has a particular date, and the date is 12/1/83. The 83 stands for 1983. So it shows or tells how long that community has existed. And according to what I was told to, and usually the way it is in Nigeria, where I'm from, the well serves as a source of water for people in the community. And that well usually it's often at the center of that community. So people from different parts, can come and then fetch water. But right now the well lies just, at the verge, or very close to the ocean. Yeah, so please play. Okay, this is another very interesting community that, in fact, this is already swallowed up with water or by water, and you see how people, I've just tried to adapt to it, with their canoes, the paddle, and this is the typical life of some people right now, It also might interest you to know that, it might interest you to know that this community has, how do I like to call it? It has become a shadow of itself, This community is somewhere in Ondo State, called Ayetoro community. Yeah. I would like to hand over to our moderator. I think I've said a lot. I don't like to do much talking, but I think now that one of my moderators is around, I think I would like to hand over to him. Please come over.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I must say it's an honor to be sitting here because I also somebody that is involved in the area of communication and using other tools to communicate environmental work and climate change. So I would say I'm a very big fan of your work, and I would say that you are really doing like serious, awesome work, because not all photographers or cinematographers or people doing such artwork want to go into the climate change space. Some of them want to go into other sectors that will fetch more money quickly and stuff like that. Not saying that there's no money in this space, just that that looks more like very fast to get your money. So I want to say that in case people from the audience have questions, you can begin to probably maybe raise your hand or something. And I'm also going to ask him some questions, probably to also help us get more insight on the work that you are doing in Lagos, Nigeria. I'm coming from somebody who also stay in Lagos, and it's not like what you are showing us is like maybe like these days that we have AI imagery. It's not an AI imagery. It's something I've seen myself. Like I've seen pictures. I've seen like eyewitness what's happening in those islands, even in Bonny Camp, Makoko, and other areas in Lagos State where I also reside and work too. So basically, I would say that what really made you to, I think that should be like the first question, like what made you to want to go into this? Because that's like the starting point. What was the thing that made you that this is what I want to do? Not just like cinematography or photography itself, but like why did you choose this sector, the climate change, environmental sector?
So the honest truth is the fact that sometimes in 2020, yes, I think I tried to elaborate a little on that earlier. Sometimes in 2020, when okay, I think it was before 2020 actually, maybe 2018 or 2019, I went online to search the word climate change. And because I connect more with images, I went on Google, typed climate change, and went on the image section. And all I found was pictures of polar bears on ice, right? But I don't know, in the part of Africa where I'm from, I've not seen a polar bear before. We don't even experience ice. I mean, it's not as cold as it is in other parts of the world. So pictures such as polar bears and ice and the iced glaciers melting were photographs that I could not connect with. Were photographs that I didn't understand. Were photographs that I could not use to tell people about climate change. So that made me, or that was one of the reasons why I decided as a photographer to go out to create images that speak more to people in my language, that speak more to people where I'm from. I don't know if to call the word indigenous images, I don't know, but this was one of the things that motivated me to go into the environment photography bits. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say this question I asked is more like, I also really need the answers because I've worked, because some of the projects I do involve climate change education, going to schools, talking to them about how they can use tech to solve environmental issues. And when we do that, sometimes we need photographers to come and take our pictures. As long as I'm like, why don't you guys want to come into the environment space? And they're always like, that's not what they want to do. So it's really touching to see you go into this space. And I would say that bringing that perspective of showing real African, probably let me say loss and damage situations, and showing how climate change actually affected people from the global south is very, very impactful. Because when you speak about it in reports and papers, and like somebody who is in the Yongo and doing GY's documents, and we write a lot of things, we don't put pictures there. But when we see your work, it's like bringing out what is really happening, putting pictures to those documents. So I would say that's really awesome. But I also want to ask further that, like while you are doing this work, like is there something that, because I want to ask it in two ways. Do you face something that makes you want to be like, I want to stop this work? And when that happens, what keeps you going? Like,
the truth is this. The fact that before now, I love to create images. I love to photograph things, people. that already, to an extent, has kept me going because if I'm to backtrack a little, my background used to be in construction way back in school.
Wow.
Um, but then a point came in my life when I decided perhaps my parent wanted me to go into construction. My dad, was in the construction. Um, and a point came when I decided I wanted to do what it is that I like. I wanted to do what it is that I really love to do. And that was what made me go into photography. So that already, you know, is enough. It's enough zeal for me. It pushes me a lot, to do all of the things that I do. But then the big challenge then comes with the environmental bit because you are not taking pictures of beautiful people and all of that. You're taking pictures, and I recall someone was in my DM yesterday saying, eventually these pictures of dumps that you take has fetched you an award, and I'm like, oh, besides, I know not, it has not been mentioned here. The COP29 presidency had given me an award for one of my photographs.
Wow.
Awesome. And I think I bagged the award yesterday.
We want to clap to that.
Yes. Thank you. I just thought to mention that. So she had said eventually these pictures of dump sites that you take has eventually fetched you an award. So, having to create photographs like this may not be aesthetically beautiful because you're like, okay, the death, right? But the fact that I've loved photography before now is something that has kept me, going. Aside from that, one very big challenge that I do face is the fear of maybe your works, my works, not getting recognized or not getting the desired impacts that I want it to have. But I've discovered that you may not get that desired impact that you want immediately, but later, that impact comes. I'll give you a typical example. In a particular part of Lagos, Bega precisely, there used to be, I know it's not something that is common, in developed worlds, but we experience open defecation. People just go some part of the road and just poo and then just leave it there, right? And these are sort of, become some, it has led to lots of issues in that community because whenever it rains, the old rain drags all that thing and then again into the water body, so I decided to do like a photo story on that open defecation. And at first I did it, pushed it online, pushed it across my platforms, and I wasn't getting nothing, I wasn't getting the result that I wanted, So stuffs like this, sometimes they just get to weigh me down because I feel like the works I've created, But like I said, sooner or later, it may delay, but then it still eventually comes. After a while, after creating those images and pushing it out, I noticed it caught I didn't know in time, but then I just noticed I was passing through that community some months later, and I discovered that the entire place had been cleaned up, by the government. So when I see stuff like this, it also tends to keep me going because I feel like, yes, my photography is making some form of impact and, people are beginning to see it. Another bit of challenge, for me is when I go to certain communities because in Nigeria, when people see you with a camera or they see you, yes, with a camera, they are often sometimes scared. Sometimes they're like, oh, you're coming to
Capture their activities.
capture their vulnerability and tell it to the world. So a lot of people are not very, very comfortable with it. So it's often one big challenge that I've experienced when I have to go to communities to take moments to capture their stories. A lot of times some of these thugs will come, with sticks and wanting to injure you and ask who you are. But one way in which I've gone about this is before I tell any story or before I go document any story, I try to visit that community without my tools, without my cameras, without anything. I just go, try to familiarize myself with people, try to make some networks, some friends, and then I try to ask them, okay, what's the issue you guys face in this community? Introduce myself, and I begin to tell them, okay, this is what I can do, this is what I can do, this is what I can do. There are times where I've had to buy drinks, for some local thugs, you know. There are times where I've had to pretend like I smoke, just because I want to, just because I want them to feel like, yeah, we're together. There are times where I've had to, just do certain things just to like try to bring myself, you know. Oftentimes when I go to these communities, you won't see me dressed like I'm dressed. I most likely would just wear a very small t-shirt and maybe a very short, you know. Just try to dress down to make them, to make me approachable. I don't know if that's the right word, yeah, so these are some challenges that, I've faced, but I've also always found a way to go about this.
Okay, thank you so much for that well-detailed explanation. I think it actually opens more light to show to the level of, let's say, um, let's say, I won't put it like you put in going the miles, like extra miles to get those photos. Because some people just think maybe you take the pictures just randomly. Maybe you're in the car, you just take the pictures. But it shows that you actually go into the community and even doing some impact assessment, because you're asking them questions on what are you facing, what is going on, and all of these things before you even start shooting. Because sometimes people go to communities to do projects and they don't even know what is the problem. They just go there and like put a solution, and at the end of the day, it's not solving any problem at the end of the day.
I would like to, sorry to cut you, I'd like to give a typical example of a particular project I was working on in that coastal community. And I say a lot of, I might tend to give some form of comparison with the developed country. Apologies. But there's something we call juju in my country. It's voodoo. Is it voodoo? Or what's it called?
Charms.
Charms, yes, And in one of this community where I was shooting, unknown to me, I was just shooting, and I was just doing my thing, and then the lady just came to meet me. Oh, no, quickly tried to call my attention not to step somewhere. Now, unknown to me, that thing had been placed. A lot of people had seen it. Not so many people knew it was there. But because I had like a local that was in that community, because I had someone that lived in that community, because I had familiarized with myself with someone in that community, I was able to, prevent myself from that, I learned a lot from that, when you're trying to do works like this to advocate for climate justice, I hope and I pray one day I will not even be the one, people are advocating for, because of one or two, So it's just very important that you, sometimes, and I do that a lot, try to understand the cultural norms, values of this particular community. There are places you go to, you have to take off your footwears, and if you do not know, it could, result to an incident or something that one may not like. So I try to do a lot of research on this community. Oftentimes I go straight to the community leaders, introduce myself to them, let them know what it is that I do. In cases or times where I do not understand the local dialect, I go with like an interpreter to come along with me and then try to explain myself to the traditional rulers before I do anything. Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, so basically, because before you give the second response, you mentioned about impact, and I think I would actually want you to kind of spread more light on that, because when you look at the work that you are doing, I think in two ways, the impact will actually encourage you to do more. Like when you saw that Lagos State government has gone to clear the place where your picture should, so that's like a level of impact of what you are doing. And also impact to the outside community and probably global space. Like you talked about the award you just received, which is awesome. So it also shows that probably photography has done some impact. So why I want you to put more light on this, because like we always talk about impact, what's the impact of what we are doing, even COP. So that's why we keep doing it, because it's giving some impact. So I want you to show us more or share us more details about how you have been able to measure the impact of your work and how that impact has also been seen to the global community that, okay, these are the places probably people have been able to say this work has been able to cause them to take action, because that's the thing that we want to see. I don't know if you can tell us more about that.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think we'll begin to take questions after this, if there are any. Talking about the impact that some of my works has had or that it has made, there is a project, and I think I tried to speak a little more on that earlier. There's a project I titled Black Oxygen in the community. In some of the slide presentations that you're going to be seeing, you're going to be seeing a lady's palm all covered with black suits, having to just glide her hands on her kitchen table. It's all covered with black suits. Having to just walk in our living room, our feet and everything it's all black. And for a long time, community leaders have been trying to talk to the organization. They've been trying to ask them to stop what it is that they're doing.
So this is in Port Harcourt, right?
No, this is not. This is in Lagos.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. But because this community, the organization now, funny enough, owned by a Chinese, but because this organization have some form of strong backends, maybe by the government, or some political people, this organization have not been able to stop. The community leaders have not been able to stop this menace in their community. So, but then after I, documented these activities, like I said, did like a virtual exhibition, and then it caught the attention of, excuse me. After I caught the attention of people in Nigeria, the organization eventually was shut down, and to me that was like a very big impact, because till tomorrow, people in that community still calling me. There are times people in that community just, they just call to check up on me. There are times, and as a matter of fact, the community leaders at some point had called me to, offer some form of monetary, compensation. Thank you very much. To offer some form of monetary compensation, because of the work that I did, So impact like this basically is what has pushed me. Talking about some other works too that I've done around plastic pollution. In some of the presentations you're going to be seeing, there happens to be a particular lady in Africa, in Nigeria, and those of us in Nigeria would know that waters are not served or sold in bottles like this. They are sold in sachet, like a nylon. And okay, some are also sold in plastic bottles, not glass though. But most people consume water in sachet. There's a small sachet. I'm going to be showing that in the course of the other presentation. And in a day, one person can take about 5 of it, if not even more, right? And it's the usual habit of people in my community where I'm from. Once you take the water, you just throw the sachet on the ground without knowing where it ends or without knowing where what happens to it. And there's a particular lady. What she does is she goes on the streets, goes to dump sites, picks the sachet. She would wash all of them, try to disinfect it, and she turns them into fabrics. She turns them into dresses for people to wear. She turns them into bags. She turns them into shoes. And other items. And the truth is, she's been doing this for a while, but not so many people knew. But the moment I stumbled on what she does, I approached her, took pictures, and I did like a story of how it goes from waste to wealth, for her. How she goes from dump sites to picking the sachet to how it ends up as school bags in front of kids, for kids, how it ends up as laptop bags for people that go to work, how it ends up as attires for people that are interested in it. And with that image, I mean, it did like you know
Boost our business.
boosted our business. A lot of people got to know about it. She started getting calls from, even international organizations. Yeah, so I mean, this just tries to tell the power in which photography has, in the environment space. Some of my works too have also been used to serve as or complement some scientific data, as I like to call it that way, because not so many people have the time to start reading a textbook, for example, that talks or describes or talks about climate change. But with the photographs, you're able to see, you're able to connect, you're able to relate to it. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say again that was very, very detailed, and actually, I would say that I don't know if the audience here can actually relate to some of the things that have been explained, but for me, as somebody who also stays in Lagos, there are things that I've seen myself, and even the lady you're talking about, I've seen her work before several times, and they all work from other artists too that actually make artworks with waste and things like this. I think while growing up, we used to have this bottle, Coke bottle and stuff, and you could actually get some, maybe, will I say, if you get like 3 or 4 bottles, you could, sorry, the crown of the bottles, you would get an extra drink from Coke those days while growing up. We put them in an envelope and we submit it and we get like extra drink, and that was really cool. I don't know how we just switch to plastic. And everything is plastic, table plastic, bottle plastic, plastic everywhere. And at the end of the day, the plastics are now in our system. And I think your work is actually showing us what it is. Like, because human eyes, or would I say human beings like speak better to images. Like imagery, I can easily see that this is what is happening. I can see the climate change. I could see that because it's what we call satellite imagery. So yeah, because I studied meteorology and we did a lot of some of this work. So in this satellite imagery, you will see that this river bank was here, like the one you showed, like some 5 years ago, and now like Lake Chad was very big, and now it's going so small. And all of these things like can only be easily seen with like the picture before, after, like it's clear. Like even without reading all the long reports, you understand. For our kids that we're trying to teach, it's very, very clear. So, but I want to ask that we have seen like what you are doing, the pictures you have explained. We've also talked about the impact, and we have also seen they have already gotten some accolades, the awards and things like that coming in. So like somebody who is sitting in this room now, who probably have questions, hopefully, I hope you guys have questions for us. Any questions? Okay, we are coming to the questions. Please have some questions. Ask us some questions. So we are coming to the questions, but before the questions, I want to say that, can you tell the audience, how can they also start? Like if they're interested, can you say something that will make them be like, oh, I also want to start taking pictures with my iPhone and posting it everywhere and be like, hashtag, this is what's happening in Azerbaijan, this is what's happening in Baku, this is what's happening in Dubai, this is what's happening here, the climate change, and all of those things like that. Because I actually tried something like that some years back. I would just take random pictures and post on the blog and be like, look at this place is dirty. But I was not a photographer, just my random phone. But I know that photography with phone now is making, like it does a lot of viral stuff. So how can people with their iPhones, with their camera, whatever what they have, how can they start or follow your footsteps and also become somebody like you?
I don't want people to be like me. I mean, the truth is, I want you to be you.
Okay.
And that's one very important thing, because it was quite peculiar for me, because like I said, I'd loved photography before now. But one thing that I used to tell people is, I know a lot of people, especially in my community, they feel like, oh, they know about climate change, but I mean, they're just like a acidic, and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do, But I used to tell them, it starts with you as a person. What's that thing you love to do? What's your area of interest? What's your calling? What's that thing you're really passionate about? And you will discover that there is always a connection of climate change to each and every one of us in different ways. Different ways. The way it addresses you is the way climate change affects you is different from the way it affects me. And in course of my visiting communities and talking about climate change, the way we even talk about climate change in different communities also matter. I mean, it differs. It's not the same. what we affect people, for example, in Lagos State is not the same is not the same experience people have maybe in the northern region of Nigeria. So I would not be telling them, I would not be giving them examples or practical examples of how to adapt or cope with flooding. I wouldn't be telling them that in some other parts of Nigeria where they're experiencing more
Drought or something.
desertification or drought and all that, you know. But then, for people that are very interested in, using their phones to take images, of course, why not? Feel free. The world has gone very digital now. You know, as much as you can, try to understand your environment first. Know what it is that you want to do, know what it is that you're trying to capture, have an idea of the story you even want to tell first before you take your cameras to shoot. So take your phone to take these pictures. And, sometimes, I'm not very good with write-ups and all that, so what I do is I try to have like a voice note. In cases where I need to have write-ups to accompany my works, I try to do like a voice note to someone, and then it does all of my write-up to accompany my works, and then push on blog or websites or different publishing, what's it called. But for some of us that are very good with writing, yes, we could, merge it together and then push it, tag people, and then from there, little by little, I'm sure you realize that you're making some form of impact. Some of us could be teachers. We could gather all of these photographs together and begin to show people in our schools, begin to show people in our community, begin to show people, and there's a project I'm working on currently. The idea is to take photographs to the local villages, because I feel like, like I said earlier, these people do not have access to the internet, so they may not even come to see some of your images. But if you have to go, take for example, and it's something I'm working on, I intend to go, next year, by next year, I intend to go to some of the local communities, meet with the traditional rulers, of this community, and have like a mini exhibition in this community. That way, we are bringing these photographs to the suburb, we're bringing it to the grassroots, so people can see, people can understand. A picture of a man whose farm has been consumed or destroyed by locusts, for example, any farmer that sees that image, would have an idea. You tell him, okay, this is climate change. He can better connect to it, So these are other, things that we can also do, to just, add up to all of the conversation of climate change, and the environment.
Okay, thank you so much for that for answering that question. Sorry. So basically, I would want to give the audience, because I still have a list of questions, but I want to give the audience time to ask their own questions. So I know somebody raised up the hand. Does she have a question? Okay.
Hello.
You can go ahead, please.
Yeah. Okay. Nice job, Maiwa. Nice job. Pictures. With pictures, you drive the message direct. You don't really need so much explanation, and you're able to get all that. So that's a very good one. I want to ask for people that want to join. Do you have like a community, like a global community, where the youths can join and they learn simple skills, even though they know how to take photographs, selfies, and all that? So where you can teach them how they can actually capture, because I can see the way you captured most of the pictures there. So if the pictures are not captured very well, it might not really drive the message. So do you have something like that where, since you're an expert in photography, you can use that to drive that message, where they will know how to capture something like that, and also share what is happening around their communities? Thank you.
There's another question?
Okay, so another one. You want us to take everything now? Let's check everything.
If you answer this,
Okay.
I'll answer and then we can go back.
Thank you, Adebote, for this wonderful session, and congratulations on your award. It's a big one. I have a few questions. One is, it's my first COP. I work in an intergovernmental space, but mostly looking at climate on its relations with security. So, I mean, I'm learning a lot in this COP. And what I've observed is the way the process goes, there is a whole, government-centered discussion on, bigger policy structural issues. There's also a lot of, civil society advocacy and people like you from the creative space trying to, build momentum on these issues. What has your experience been in COP29 in terms of what the global response is to climate change? What are your frustrations? Where do you feel advocacy is having traction in terms of having meaningful global change? That's my first question. The second one is, do you engage with people who do similar work like you from across Africa? Because I come from Ethiopia. I'm wondering, do we have somebody like Adebote in Ethiopia? I'll be curious. I'll go back and ask. But I feel like it would be good if there is a much more continental conversation happening with people who do similar work like you. And the third one is, because I work in an intergovernmental space as well, I realized that the platforms we usually manage are closed to people who come from the creative space and those from civil society. You're very articulate, and I believe you being recognized in the way you've been recognized, I think will give you a lot more doors to open. But how do you see that interaction in access to more people like you into those, let's say, government-led big conversations? I'm very much interested in that. There needs to be a lot of conversation amongst those two, I believe, and would love to hear your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Any questions from
Thank you very much for that question. I will try to answer as much as I can, and if I miss any, please do let me know. But the last question you asked seemed to be very interesting to me, and I would like to start with that. It's quite unfortunate that let me localize it to where I'm from, in Nigeria. Whenever I put up some of these works spotlighting environmental issues, the government see it as me trying to attack them. And oftentimes, they are not very receptive to it. A lot of times, in fact, I've been at an event and I try to introduce myself to somebody, and I'm like, okay, my name is this, and this is what I do. And immediately got the idea of me, photographs, He said, oh, so you're that guy, and the conversation went off immediately. It wasn't, very interested. And I recall some 3-4 months ago, I put up something on my platform where I said that my works are not in fact, the truth is, my works are not anti-government, even though a lot of government persons, try to perceive it that way. My works are not anti-government. I'm not, pushing these works to go against the government, right? I'm pushing these works, number one, and that's very primary for me, to foremost enlighten people about the subject and the problems of climate change. I'm using it to enlighten people. The second part to it is I use these photographs to call the attention of people to issues. I don't expect the government to know all of the environmental issues happening in its country. They could have an idea, they could have heard of it, but how do they connect to it? How do they see? How do they know how much of enormous impact that these people are facing? And that's the angle in which I'm coming from. Other than being told that, okay, in a community, people's lives or people have been affected by flooding, I try to, bring this evidence right before you, just by viewing, but it's just quite unfortunate that a lot of time, government, folks in my country see me as, trying to shame them or trying to speak against the government, but really it's not so. So what I've tried to do is, in my narrative, I've tried to tone down a little on I tried not to be critical. that's what I've done. I've tried not to be critical with my works. You know, I try to just find the balance. You know, sometimes I'm subtly speaking to the government. Sometimes I'm also speaking to people that, you know, because the truth is, most of these environmental problems that, take for example, I face in my community, it's not entirely or directly done by government from another person. It's from that community too. You know, so I try to just find a balance, you know, such that the government do not see me as being
Okay, pointing
as me
fingers on them.
trying to point fingers on them. You know, I've also tried to, you know, when I push out like the open defecation story, what I did is I tried to talk about, I tried to mention philanthropists, bigger organizations that I know can relatively come to build infrastructure, toilets, you know, restroom infrastructures in that community, you know. So I try to mention those people. I try to talk about how people can just come and support people, you know, in that community, and not entirely, you know, say, hey, government, this problem is here, and you have to come and do this, or why are you not doing this, you know. And I don't know if this answers the first question. You had also asked about having people like Adebote Maya in Ethiopia. I mean, I'm very much happy if you sponsor me, you know, in Ethiopia. I'm very much happy to come around, you know. But I do think that perhaps you haven't looked closely at it. I want to believe that there are documentary photographers that also do similar stuff, you know, such as this in Ethiopia. I do think so. The but to that is some of these photographers, and I mean, I've also, you know, been in that, or I'm also in that shoe or in that position, are not been very encouraged to do stuff like this. So there isn't that much motivation for photographers to want to create images like this. A lot of these photographers that I know that create images like this, they are commissioned to do that, you know. And a number of the works I've done are not commissioned. I mean, I'm not commissioned by anybody, you know, frankly speaking. You know, a number of the works and projects that I've done, I've not been commissioned by anyone, you know. It doesn't mean that one way or the other I don't get paid, or I don't, I mean, by doing some of these things, other civil society, other environmental organizations see some of these works, and by extension, they get to call me to do some maybe documentaries or storytelling for them, you know, and that way, I mean, I'm okay, I'm fine, you know, right? But then, if photographers, if creatives like this are not, you know, sort of encouraged, you know, I know so many applications I've written to organizations, can we do like an exhibition? I mean, I don't get anything, you know, so if creatives like this are not encouraged, you know, to do, you know, stuff like this, you may not really find them having to push their works outside. You know, I know a few people in Nigeria after that I started what it is that I do, that also have tried to do similar stuff, but they've just tried to move along with maybe the UN, for example, in Nigeria, the UNDP, you know, yes, you know, and that way they feel like they are, you know, way more comfortable. Unfortunately, the other side to that is some of these works would not entirely end up on social media because they are commissioned to do it. You know, so at the end of the day, these photographers just create this work and then they give it to the client that commissioned them to do the work. You know, so that way the impact, you know, does not necessarily spread and people do not see these works, right?
So I think one of the reasons why that happens, like the question I asked you before, is that how do they make money? So imagine somebody who is taking photography, this kind of work as his kind of core area in photography, and he needs to feed himself, pay bills, and all of this. So their best option is like, let me attach myself to UNDP. So UNDP is paying me and getting the photograph instead of pushing it out there, because the public will not really pay you for the work. So that's the only way they could sustain them continue doing that work. Because if I'm going to shoot a wedding, I know that the person is paying me X, Y, Z amount. But I'm shooting for somebody's concert, I know the person is paying X, Y, Z amount. So that's why I was asking before that most photographers would like to do that, because once they're going for a shoot, they know that they're getting food from the party, and they're also getting some pay at the end, even before the job starts. But this work that we're doing, like the climate change photography, environment photography, really will not get you that money instantly, like you explained.
Instantly. Let's just say I've been lucky, right? And then let's see how far I'm able to go. But I do hope to continue to do this. And it's glad that we're also having this conversation.
Yes, no, we have not answered that question.
I'm coming to that. it's glad that we're also having this conversation. You know, this is also me trying to introduce myself to everybody seated in this place, you know, so that at least I'm able to also put food on my table, right? Anyways, that was on a lighter note. I will come back. But to the question of community, the truth is, I haven't entirely I do not have a community right now, you know, and that's because there is a whole lot that it even takes, considering the fact that it's, a lot of the work I do is self-sponsored, it's, you know, all by myself, you know, so it's a whole lot trying to, you know, want to create a community of photographers, environmental photographers that do, you know, stuff like this. But I do have, in this year alone, I do have 2 people that I have mentored personally, you know, in this area, and the truth is they are doing really well. You know, they are doing really well. You know, sometimes I even look at them and I'm like, oh, okay, you know.
And are they joining the UNDP or UN space or?
No. They're also in the
like
personal
freelancing.
space, freelancing. Yes, and what I try to do is that because I've also grown, I've met with other NGOs. I try to give, you know, some of my jobs. You know, I try to ask them to do it. And as a matter of fact, now that I'm in COP, I have one of them, in person of Nifemi, that does try to, I mean, it takes up some of the tasks, some of my jobs, you know, that I'm, you know, readily not available to do, carry out now. You know, so this is just how I've been able to gather people and get people, you know, and they're doing really well, like I said. But perhaps if you would maybe, if you're ready to support us, I mean, I'm very much happy to go into that line, you know, ensuring that we have more creatives, not just even photographers, you know, ensuring that we have more creatives, you know, in this space to push the message. Now to your first question, I guess.
If you ask something about frustration in COP, like what's your frustration in COP?
Yes. My frustration in COP, I would say, is just the fact that, I'm sorry to say it because we are still in COP, right?
We're in the green zone.
Okay, I'm in the green zone. Okay, I feel like a lot of our leaders, a lot of us are just making this COP thing a usual thing. They're just making it like a form of event that needs to be marked or should be marked, and a lot of actions, a lot of steps that needs to be taken. You know, I feel like they are not being taken. You know, this is day 1 of COP, and frankly speaking, day 9. Yeah, frankly speaking, of course, there's been lots of conversation, great conversations, great, you know, decisions that have been made. You know, but I feel like it's not enough. You know, there's still a lot that needs to be done. Yeah, there's still a lot, and for me, I mean, I'm just going to continue to push. You know, like I can do. You know, I've also decided, you know, and this is part of my own experience in my own pavilion, to engage more with political folks and leaders, because I'll give you a typical example. You know, most of the negotiators in my own region, most of them they are more from the political space, you know, and there's a bit of less introduction of people from the civil society, people that are like very neutral. So okay, I feel like these people are not hitting the nail on the head as they should, you know. So for me, I'm trying to look at how to also, and I did do a lot of trying to network with these people, got a lot of contacts. So I'm trying to do, you know, see how to really get into these people, you know, such that they have a better understanding of how the impact really is, and that way, that could also shape their narrative. It could also shape their thoughts and thought process by the time they get out there, you know. Because the truth is, I'm not going to continue to wait on the government. I'm not going to continue to wait on, oh, these people are not doing this, these people are not doing this. I'm also going to try in my own quota the way I can to ensure that, you know, these people get the message. So 2 take-homes for me: grassroots people, because I've created thousands of images, and I feel like a lot of these grassroots people are not seeing it the way I want them to see it, that's one, and something I want to work on. The other bit to it is ensuring that I have some very close collaborations with the people in the government to see how they cannot just hear about it, but they are able to see it. I was also thinking of, really getting involved with more like an interstate, I really don't know how to put it, but trying to measure the level of how each state in my country is, working or preparing or doing stuff towards, addressing climate change, and looking at how I can try to push this out. Perhaps that would also, serve as a way of motivating these people to also do more. Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking at time because we need to begin to round up. But before we do, like I said, I wanted to ask, I'll probably just put everything in a bundle. It's a bit of concern because when you talk about the community also having a role to play, that was very, very important. I don't know if it was somebody from the audience that mentioned it or it was you. Because sometimes we just point about the government, what are we also doing as individuals? You see people coming back to Lagos again and you are walking in the street and somebody is just pouring all the waste inside the drainage and everything is going and they're like, it's gone to the next neighbor and they are fine. So all of these things, and you also pointed that it's not getting to them. Some of them don't even know what they are doing is wrong. Like when I was growing up as a child, I actually did the same thing. Once it's raining, we just take all the refuge and pour it. And we see it going like bye, bye, bye. And I was like, it's gone. Not knowing that it's going to go cause more problems somewhere. So when I see people doing these things, I'm like, I was once there, but how can I tell this child not to? So I think I would like to see how you are able to push that in the future. But my question goes to the area of security, like security of your own life. Like talking about how this work makes the government think that you are trying to attack them. So for example, I've seen somebody who did something in the political area where he was asked to use his data analytics skills to show the result of an election, who actually won. At a point, this was in a court case. At a point, the police had to come and fetch him and go and hide him somewhere because his life was at risk. Because he was going to do some data analysis to show that this was the winner of the election. And that was not what the other person wants. So imagine you showing what a state government is supposed to be doing, and he's claiming that he has done it, and you are still in Lagos or maybe somewhere close to it. How do you secure your life? Even the community that you came to show the harm they are doing. What if this community comes to your house and how do you ensure that you are safe and secured doing your advocacy work? Okay,
so it's a two. I'm going to answer that in two ways. I think I also tried to mention that earlier. Number one, okay, I think our time is up.
Yes.
Can I give? Okay. So I'm going to try to answer that quickly.
Sorry, can we still show the slides? Presentation. Yes. Okay.
I don't know. It's going to be here or the other. Okay, I'll find out that. So number one, the best way is there's an adage. I've forgotten how that adage is, but then the first way is to try to lobby the government, and I was also trying to do that in the course of COP. I wrote to the Lagos State government. I said, oh, you guys are doing great stuff. How can we spotlight what the government is doing in COP? For me, it was just a way of getting to the government. It was just a way of trying to get the government on my side. And perhaps after we do this, I get that connect, and then I can also begin to push out other narratives. Okay, can we look into this? Okay, how about this? So it's just, trying to find a way to buy the government on my own side. And that's to the government side bit. The other environment bit is there's no how in a community you won't find people that at least support the work you do, and these are the people I have on my side. These are the people I try to, really get on my side. Besides, there are times too where I've had to, at least talk to security agencies, some security operatives. Okay, I'm doing XYZ activity and I'm going to be in this community. If you don't hear from me for 2-3 days, know that there's problem. This is where I am. So these are a few things that I've just been able to put in place to ensure that my life is safe. Aside from my life, my equipment and gears too, I try to ensure that they are also safe.
Okay, I'll say thank you so much. I want us to give him a round of applause because he's really doing an awesome work. And also, if you can also give him a standing ovation for the award that was won. No, you can sit down while we clap for you.
No. Thank you.